What is going on, everyone? My name is the California Cougar, and welcome back to another Survivor review. Today, we are talking about the 29th season of Survivor. This is Survivor San Juan Del Sur, also known as the second Blood vs. Water season. The main differences between this season and the original Blood vs. Water is that this season, instead of bringing back 10 returning players and their loved ones, they bring 20 new players. So these are all newbies, entirely new players. Although there are some familiar faces in here that we'll talk about. But yeah, it's all new players to Survivor. And the other main difference is there's no Redemption Island this season. So yeah, no one had to go to Redemption Island. We didn't have to watch any of that mess again. So yeah. This season was not nearly as well received as the original Blood vs. Water. And looking back on it, it's really easy to see why. This season's just so forgettable. It's an absolute train wreck of a season. It's a huge mess. Like, a lot of really dumb players this season. And, like, a lot of the best moments only last, like, maybe 1 or 2 episodes. And that's really it. Like, there's really nothing all that memorable about this season. Starting off with the cast. And like I said, the cast, a lot of small brain players here. Like, my God, you have some big dummies. But we'll start off with Natalie Anderson. Like, Natalie Anderson was the winner of this season. She was obviously one of the highlights, one of the smarter players this season. And yeah, she ended up winning. And she played with her twin sister Nadia, who was the first person voted out. So, yeah, like, Nadia and Natalie, in case you don't remember who they are, they were originally from The Amazing Race, and a lot of people know them as the very annoying twinnies, because that's what they were. However, in Survivor, like, we got to see Natalie adapt without her sister around, and she was actually a good player. She wasn't nearly as annoying as I thought she was going to be. She was actually a very solid player, and I actually kind of enjoyed her this season, I will say that. A couple other standout players, you got Josh and Jeremy. Their little rivalry was fun to watch while it lasted. Unfortunately, that's one of the things that didn't last nearly as long as it should have. And yeah, like, not really much to them other than the fact that they both had potential as players. We obviously saw that in Jeremy in later seasons. Unfortunately, we haven't seen Josh since, but hopefully one of these days we'll see Josh again. I'd like to see Josh make a return. I thought he was an overall solid player. Reed, on the other hand, Josh's boyfriend, I mean, he was okay. His speech towards Missy at the final tribal, we'll talk about Missy in a second. The speech toward Missy at the final tribal council was accurate, but holy hell, it was mean-spirited. Like, it was a bit over the top, but it was kind of funny. I mean, we all know how Josh felt about Missy throughout the entire season. And then Jeremy's wife, Val, she was second voted off because she lied to John Rocker about having 2 idols, and when she actually didn't have an idol, and she ended up getting voted out because of it, even though John Rocker tried to save her. Speaking of John Rocker was the third person voted out. He's known as I think he was a closer in Major League Baseball for the Braves back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, or something like that. I don't remember when he played for the Braves, but he was the closer. Known for making some controversial racist remarks. I don't remember exactly what he said, but that's what he was known for. Him getting into it with Natalie, I believe, after the third immunity challenge was funny. Yeah, it was hilarious. Like, him calling her mouth, like, keep mouthing off. If you were a man, I'd knock your teeth out. It was funny, although a bit dramatic. His girlfriend was an absolute scrub, though. Like, oh my God, she did nothing this season, and then she quits at the merge. Like, how pathetic is that? Yeah, she was an absolute scrub-ass Survivor player. We're not going to see her again. Good freaking riddance. Trash. Alright, now we get into the more interesting characters. Drew and Alec. Okay, so Drew and Alec, the long-haired brothers. I don't know if they were twins or if Drew was just the older brother to Alec. Drew was funny, although he was one of the small brain players. Like, he intentionally throws a challenge to try and get Kelly Wentworth out, and then he ends up getting voted out because of it. Like, how small-brained do you have to be to intentionally throw a challenge without getting approval from your tribe mates in order to vote off Kelly Wentworth? Like, are you that dumb? And then Alec, he really didn't do anything for me. Like, he was likable, but he didn't have the same charisma that Drew had. And, like, he was just kind of there for the later parts of the season. So, yeah. And then, of course, Kelly Wentworth, this season, is the one that introduced us to her. She had a lot of potential in this season, but ultimately it didn't pan out for her. Luckily, we got to see her in later seasons where things went much better. So, yeah, not really much to say about her, but we'll talk about her more once we get to Survivor Cambodia in a couple weeks. So, yeah, and then her father, Dale, he was voted off right behind her again. They both kind of got swap screwed. They were like the one couple on a tribe with a bunch of singles at that point, whereas the other tribe had like 3 couples or something like that. But yeah, like he didn't really get to do much, unfortunately. Like, okay, what other couples were there? There was, I already mentioned Julie, and I already mentioned Josh and Reed. Jeremy and Val, I kind of already went into. There was also John and Jacqueline. I mean, they had some potential this season. Unfortunately, once again, it didn't really pan out well for either of them. Jacqueline got second. Good on her. But, yeah, like, again, didn't really do much this season. John had potential. He just got caught up on the wrong side of things. And he was too cocky. Like, he never saw any blind sides coming for him or anything like that. He just assumed that he was going to go all the way to the end. He had no idea that Natalie was after him the whole time, basically. And then you got Keith and Wes. And, man, I wanted to root for Keith and Wes so badly, but they just didn't do anything. Like, Keith had potential. He probably could have won the game had he made the final 3, but the problem is these two were so small-brained, so dumb, they could have gotten a lot farther than they did, especially Wes. But then, of course, there was an iconic moment this season that ended up being the turning point of the season, which I'll talk about in a bit, and that's where things just went completely downhill for all of them. So, yeah. So that's really it for the cast. Oh, I didn't even talk about Missy and Baylor yet. Yeah, these two were miserable. They were absolutely miserable to watch. I did not enjoy watching either of them. Baylor, like, Reed called her a brat in front of her mom. Her mom called him out for it, and rightfully so. I mean, she's Baylor's mother. She's going to defend her daughter. Like, okay, sure. But at the same time, Baylor was a brat. Reed is not wrong when he says that. Like, he was not wrong about Baylor just being this bratty little girl the whole time. And, like, her mom's always sticking up for her. Like, it's Survivor, girl. Like, I get it. You're a mother. You want to defend your daughter. Fine. But this is Survivor. People are going to call you out on your BS. And that's exactly what Reed did with Baylor. And yeah, again, like his wicked stepmother, like the wicked stepmother thing, like, yeah, it was a little bit over the top, but he's not wrong about it. So yeah, like, that's really it. I don't remember if I think there were only 18 players this season, I think, from what I remember. So yeah, that's the cast. Now, some of these moments this season were just so cringe. Like, in the beginning of the game, in the pre-merge, you have the Hunapu tribe, which is winning all the challenges. However, they are so incompetent with their resources that they run out super quickly. Like, they're overstuffing themselves with rice. And to the point where they're, like, running out of rice, they have to trade away pretty much all their rewards that they win just to get another bag of rice because they don't know how to ration properly. And then you have the whole incident where they lose their flint. They ask Jeff to trade a bag of beans for another flint. Jeff's like, nah, you got to give up the fishing gear. I think it was fishing gear that they won. And they do that. And then they find the flint in the next episode. And Jeff just rips them on it. Like, that was so funny, yet so cringeworthy. It was, oh my god, it was crazy. Like, that tribe was an absolute train wreck. I mean, yeah, they won all the challenges because they were overstuffing themselves with rice, but at the same time, they were so bad at managing resources, they pretty much ended up worse off than the Coyopa tribe did, despite Coyopa getting rid of all their members. So, yeah, like, ugh. Just ridiculous. Exile Island came back this season. It was a fine twist this season. Like, basically, like two people. I think two people went to Exile. I don't remember, but yeah, like they go out to Exile. Actually, it was like a loved one competed against their loved one in a reward challenge, and the loser went to Exile Island. The winner won reward for their tribe. I wasn't really a big fan of the individual reward challenge thing. Like, it was just, like, okay, yeah, it brings out more drama because loved ones are sending their loved ones to Exile Island. Brought out a lot more tears, particularly in Jeremy, but, yeah, and then you have the whole, I got beat by a girl comment, the misogynistic comment from John Rocker. Yeah. Like, you have John Rocker getting voted out with an idol in his pocket. Classic moment. He was entertaining on the show. He was. Even though the guy's a bigot in real life. Like, no one denies that. But he was entertaining on the show. And, of course, yeah, I already mentioned Exile Island and Val getting voted off because she lies about having two idols or something like that to John Rocker's face. And then you have Julie quitting. That was kind of a sour moment. And then you have this rivalry between Josh and Jeremy building up, which could have been great. But then at the merge, Josh gets voted out, and then Jeremy gets voted off right after. It went absolutely nowhere. So disappointing. So disappointing to see where that went. And then, of course, you have probably the biggest turning point of this season. Like, all the girls are getting together, forming this female alliance. All the guys are getting together. John and Jacqueline are kind of in the middle. Although they did help vote off Josh. They also helped vote off Jeremy. And, yeah, like, John and Jacqueline, they're just kind of in the middle ground. But they are now aligned with, I think it was Natalie. Who else was in that alliance? Natalie, Missy, and Baylor. They were aligned with them. And then you have the guys' alliance with Keith, Wes, Alec, and Reed. So, you have the four of them, and then John and Jacqueline are with Natalie, Missy, and Baylor. And the plan was, at that Final 9 Tribal, it was for the Natalie, Missy, Baylor, John and Jacqueline alliance to split their votes between Keith and Wes. I think it was Keith and Wes. And then the four of them, like the four guys, were going to throw their votes at John because they knew John had an idol and they wanted to blindside him. And then Keith makes one of the most small brain moves I think I've ever seen in Survivor history. It's one of the most underrated dumb moves out there. It can be described in 4 words. Stick to the plan. As soon as he said that, I was just like, oh my god, you just screwed over your entire alliance, dude. And sure enough, like, John would never have seen that coming, by the way. That would have been a huge blindside. And then it would have tied up the alliances. It would have been guys versus girls, 4-4, and we would have seen some fireworks at the next several tribals. It could have been so good, but then that stick to the plan thing happened, and it completely killed any sort of momentum it had. It was so disappointing. so disappointing. And then the rest of the season's pretty much really predictable after that. Wes gets voted off. Then I think Alec gets voted off. And then it's down to, like, it eventually gets down to just Keith. Or no, it was Wes was voted off, then Reed, then Alec. And then it's down to just Keith. They decide to keep Keith around a little bit because he's winning a couple of immunity challenges. And then he gets voted off at Final Four. And then Natalie wins the game. Like, yeah, Natalie wanted to blindside John. John was too cocky to ever figure out that Natalie was going after him. And, yeah, it was just so predictable. It was predictable. That's the entire season. It was so predictable. Like, as soon as Jeremy went out, you pretty much knew Natalie was going to win the game if she got past Final 9. And I think had they blindsided John, like, yeah, there's probably a good chance Natalie could have gotten voted off at the next tribal, but we will never know because that didn't happen. So, yeah, like, are there good things about this season? Yeah, like I said, Natalie's gameplay was good. The Jeremy-Josh rivalry was good. What could have been a great alliance. I mean, yeah, Stick to the Plan was an iconic moment, sure, even though it was really stupid. John Rocker was alright for the time he was on TV. Some of the blindsides this season were fine. Natalie, like, unintentionally voting off Alec was a pretty crazy move, I guess you could say. I don't really know how else to put that. But, like, yeah, she unintentionally voted off Alec, even though that's not what her alliance wanted. But I guess it was to get an advantage over John or something. I don't remember the exact context of it. The location of the season was whatever. It was on Nicaragua. We've seen it before. The challenges, I don't even remember half the challenges, to be honest. Like, there's the challenge where Wes is, like, eating chicken wings and beer, and he, like, mentions how he won the chicken nugget contest or something like that. I don't remember the exact context of that, but it went something like that. So, yeah, San Juan del Sur, just a forgettable season. I don't like the blood versus water aspect of Survivor. I really don't. Just too much drama for the sake of having good TV. Like, that's what it is to me. And, yeah, like, you have John and Jacqueline, boyfriend, girlfriend, right? They're not talking to each other for 5+ hours. Like, that was probably the most dramatic moment. That and the John Rocker boot. And I guess Jeremy crying over his wife being voted out. That was really it, though. So, yeah, with that being said, I'm going to give Survivor San Juan del Sur a 3 out of 10. So, yeah, there's my review of San Juan del Sur. Yeah, it was just disappointing. It was kind of a mess. Again, there's some good things about it. It's not the worst season ever, but it's just not a season that I would ever consider watching again. Like, I almost gave this season a 2 out of 10, but I figured 3 out of 10, I'll be a little bit more generous. So, yeah, 3 out of 10 for Survivor San Juan del Sur. Anyway, guys, have you seen Survivor San Juan del Sur? What did you think about it? Make sure to let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. And make sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos to come in the future. Next week, we talk about Survivor Worlds Apart. Finally getting into Season 30. We're in the 30s. So we're finally on the home stretch of these Survivor reviews. But yeah, until that next review, once again, my name is the California Cougar. And always remember to stay California cool. Peace!